All right, hello and welcome back to another tier ranking session, uh, which Mark was kind enough to put together. And now we can look at the Order Warband unique skills, the actives and passives, which is a pretty big category. He also put together the Destruction Warband active and passives, which hopefully we'll look at that next. Jesus Christ, cat, can you go? It's knocking down my lamps. Thank you, cat. Why do cats always rub on everything? Anyway. Cats. They like knocking shit off shelves, too. Like, they'll just be like, oh, I knocked your thing off the shelf. Do you want me to do that? I did it. Anyway. So we're starting here with the mercs, as you can see. We'll look at the actives, I guess, first and try to look at the passives. We're just, hey, man, been a minute. Like, we're going to rank some of these skills and talk about them, how good they are. So you can see you have guard stance, sniper shot, tactician, and then you can barely see, but we have, we'll talk about combat expertise, flawless, and hunter. So guard stance, it's take a stance. This counts as a stance. It can be stopped by taking something like frenzy. Interesting that it says requires a melee weapon. I've honestly never tried to take a guard stance with a ranged weapon. I don't know if that truly does block it. But basically, you end your turn and gain 10%, 5% or 10% armor. Now the Warband unique skills are very cheap to train, and they require not 9, but like 9. It's kind of a weird, unique thing. And so for the mercenaries, you have guard stance, which makes them one of the literally kind of the tankiest warband in a way, especially if you put a warrior priest on the team. It could be very tanky. So if you're making a tanky build, which is the #1 way to block damage in this game, because the way damage is calculated, you add up all the modifiers, and then you finally subtract whatever percentage of armor is left over. So it can be a huge block of damage coming your way. So armor can be very powerful, and the more you have of it, the better, right? Some of it's good, like 20%. Let's say you have 20% left over. That's blocking 20% of whatever the final damage calculation is. So if they're barely hitting you, it's not that big a deal. But if they're going to do like, 100 damage, then you've blocked 20% of it. That's pretty good. Now, if you could block 75% of it, that's amazing, right? So I like guard stance. I think guard stance is a very good skill. You can combine it with the shield of iron. You could combine it with ignore pain. You can take a mandrake root. You can take armor proficiency. You can take a helmet. Again, you can take a warrior priest if you're just, no restrictions or whatever. You literally can with the mercs. You get armor, righteousness, all kinds of really cool ways to buff armor to absurd levels. So I think the mastery adding 10%. I mean, not every build's taking it. I don't think it's like people were talking about when I first made these lists, like there's too many categories. It's like, I don't know. I don't really see the difference between upper and bottom. Like I've been saying the entire time, this is like it's a viable, useful, decent skill. It has a role. You can do things with it. There's strategies to be done with it. It's like the break-even point. So then once you're like at that point, I see this like as now the A, B, C, D, F, or S, A. There's all these rating systems. So where are you on the good scale? And then down here is like where are you on how bad is it really scale? So this one feels like kind of middle of the road to me. If you're making an armor build, of course you're taking it, but are you always taking an armor build? No, maybe you want to take Web of Steel. Because it is a stance, right? So it has to compete with other stances. We put web up here, right? Like basic web. And this is a mastery. Only heroes can take it. I'm doing the mastery first because I think this one's not as good. I'm not going to put it there, but so I think plenty of builds take it. The warriors take it. Like the marksman's not taking it. It literally said you had to have a melee weapon. Why would he take it? He literally can't, according to the description. So That's blocking it from these tiers, but I do think it's really good. So that's how we're ending up kind of in the middle of here. I think it's a great skill. It does its job if you want to armor build. It's a niche in a sense because it only kind of works with an armor build. It has to compete with other stances, so I think it's a great skill for the mercs, and it's unique. It's powerful. All these will be because they're warband specific. Now, is a hero ever going to say, "Hey, I only want 5% more armor. I want to trade Web of Steel, Ready Stance, any of some of these other ones?" You'll see in some of the other skills they have discounts to other stances. Prowl, you know, Onslaught for 5% more armor. I mean, a hero's never saying that, so it already is like on the bad scale to me. And then now, does a henchman want this? Like, no, because they could take Web of Steel or Sidestep or any other stance. So only for 5% armor, I think it starts to become really bad. And that's the distinction, right? Because Web even can supplant this, and Web was up here. But I think it's really good in what it does. It's the only, like, I can buff armor by taking this stance in the game. It's the only one. And that's unique and powerful. Whereas this one is just not good at all. You can take with a shield of iron, a helmet. You can kind of make a tanky-ish warrior. But I still think that's a bad build. I think you still want Web of Steel. It's not nearly down here because it's usable. It gives you 5% armor. I think the build using armor over just Web of Steel will block more damage overall in a battle, even if you consider like parry bypass and whatnot, than basic 5% guard stance that a marksman's never taking and only a warrior can take. So in that regards, I think it's bad. Is there a way to fix it? I don't know. Maybe you have to tack on a secondary buff to it. Gain 5% armor and 10% melee resist. I don't know. That sounds strong too, though, right? But it feels like it needs something else secondary to even want to consider the basic effect over something like Web of Steel, or which is the most obvious for a warrior, or anything else, to be quite honest. So it's a very like right off the bat, like stark difference between mastery and basic. And then you have sniper shot, which is like we talked about this a bit with ballistic skills. It's a ranged attack, deals regular damage, but with 15% extra chance to hit, 15% extra critical hit chance, and then 30% extra critical hit damage when you hit, and then you basically double everything. Mastery is 30% chance to hit, which is like aim. That's like mastery aim, or just mastery aim. We talked about this with that. 25% more crit chance over mastery aim, and then you get a carnage rune on top of it. Like, this is extremely powerful. The drawback is aim only costs 1 extra SP if you're taking the mastery. This takes 2 OP, so you're getting less shots off. I see this a lot with gunpowder, and I think that's like not good, because gunpowder adds even an extra one, so you have to do like introspection or ad rush, and you get 2 shots. But if you do land it, it can be pretty destructive. You can get 3 longbow shots off with this though, because you can with a bow. So would you rather have 2 gunpowder shots or 3 longbow shots? I would lean towards the longbow. The smuggler has this as well, because they kind of blur into some of these. So it requires 6 accuracy and then 9 accuracy. There's not many other units that are going to use this except the sniper and the marksman. I mean, could a Youngblood take this? Yeah, but you won't fucking hit anything. And that starts to be the problem with the smuggler too. She doesn't have any autocorrect like the chain shot that the marksman has. She'll have lower ballistic skill. Like, the marksman can get, especially Lad's Got Talent, 9 accuracy and still get massive, like 20 ballistic skill. It's like no sweat for him. So we talked a lot during ballistics too about there's very few ways to actually increase range damage. The exception being a critical hit. So if you put this, basically comes with the Carnage rune, the 60% on mastery, and then you put literally a Carnage rune, or you could put Slain on the weapon. This has been a big debate. But you could put that, and then you can take deep wounds too. You can start to see where you get big damage on a range shot, which can be very powerful. It's the most damaging ranged attacks in the game. Stronger than lightning. Like if you can get a ranged crit with like these boosts on it, you're doing massive, safely shooting things from far away, which is a very strong thing in the game. So it's a good skill, but I've talked a lot about Vital Shot and where I put that. Let me just move them up. I liked Vital Shot kind of builds more than this. Now, Vital Shot doesn't have the built-in chance to hit. It has literally the same critical hit chance, I think, 15 and 30, and then it doesn't have Carnage. So would you rather do 3 sniper shots or 4 vital shots? Now, the way I saw it with the marksman, with the chance to hit, if he misses a couple times, now you could say this with sniper shot too, but he's building up that like lost hit chance to the point where you're already getting like 80 to 90+% hit chances. So you're missing the on critical damage. And I don't know the math. I think Paranoia has probably done the math, but maybe they're very similar. So I'd rather take more shots of trying to get the crit than I just like to roll the dice more because crits feel like rolling the dice. So I'd rather have more chances to roll the dice with the vital shot than I would sniper shot. But if you do roll snake eyes, I think the sniper shot will hurt more, clearly. So that would be the argument for taking the sniper shot. Now I rated vital shot very highly, so what would I rank this? So again, basic versus mastery. You start to run into problems with basic. The only way you're going to get 2 shots off with a henchman is, I think, like an injury, like concussion or something, where you have 6 base OP, and then you can take Ad Rush and Introspection and shoot off another sniper shot. So right off the bat, you can tell I don't think highly of this for a henchman. Taking a single gunpowder shot with sniper shot, you could argue's powerful. Like if it lands, okay, great. I just struggled to see it. The other option, which I hadn't really thought about, and we talked about, and I always used it with the Maiden, is something like Battle Plan. Something else I could reasonably do, because marksmen are available to sisters, is Sigmar's Second Wind. So you can put a sniper, I don't know why you do this with a henchman, anyway, but you can recharge his OP, like take a delay, and get off a couple more sniper shots. And I hadn't really thought about that, but that is pretty powerful. Would I still do that with a henchman? Probably not. And I think it's going to be like similar. This is going to be very similar. Like, I think it's just bad. I don't see you wanting to take basic. The only reason I think you're taking basic is because you haven't trained mastery yet. That's about it. I think henchmen using their whole turn for 1 shot isn't great. I'd rather be debuffing or doing other things, knee shots and other just shots with the henchmen, or even just 2 vital shots over like 1 sniper shot. I don't want to have to get an injury and then whatnot to try to get basic sniper shots off. So I think it's just bad. Where this is kind of just ranged builds. And the ranged builds can only be built certain ways. So how does this fit in with ranged builds? And a lot of the ballistic skills were up here because it makes sense because the ballistic skills work really good for ballistic builds, just like the intelligence skills were working really good for mages. That's kind of the point, right? They're good in their niche. So sniper shot, I think I had vital shot. I don't even know if I had it godly. And I'm trying to like fairly rate it. I'm trying to think back to those. I think I'm a little biased towards vital, which affects my ranking of this. But given everything all together, especially PvE, I could totally make a viable, strong, powerful, ranged sniper shot build that just fucks things up with deep wounds and all this. So I do think, and with second wind and battle plan, I do think it's elite. Again, I don't think I'd take it on every single build, which is like been my distinction the whole time. Would every sniper, every ranged unit I ever make for mercs have this? No. Is it really good in a build that you build it in? Yeah. So that's very elite, in my opinion. So I prefer Vital Shot. There's no reason this isn't viable, especially again with like concussion or something. The one thing about Sniper Shot is it saves you a lot of SP versus the other build, which is shooting more. Shooting less can be good because you can reposition more. You can take, in theory, like secondary skills as an active, like Stimulus, let's say, or Combat Savvy, if he has that many SP left over. So you can't take Hunter, which we'll talk about with this, because this is a skill shot, and Hunter only works on basic shots, which we'll talk about, which is annoying in a way. But like this can give you more SP and more mobility over the Vital Shot build, or maybe you don't even need to take Mastery Quick Reload. It's been suggested. You can't rely on Hunter though, because again, this is a skilled shot. So that's that. Then we get to Tactician, which I admit I have not really utilized. It's complicated, as you can see, like this giant paragraph here. So it's a cool skill because it's mercs, right? And they seem to be the most like leadership-oriented kind of warband, with a captain in the back yelling orders and barking out and whatnot. And this kind of, in a sense, I think suits them. So now anyone can take this, so it doesn't have to be the leader, but it reduces the cost of the ambush and Overwatch, prowl and onslaught, which are like those, entrenched, and disengage by 1 offensive point. And there's a skill like hit and run that maybe goes into this too, which I didn't rate highly, maybe because I don't use this often as well. But none of these are cheap, trivial to train, and that was part of my rankings too. And then it reduces the cost of safe stance and def stance, and we've talked about like how niche those are because they're alertness requirements, and like who on the mercs is taking safe stance? I struggle to, like, especially since you could take guard stance, we just talked about. Like, I think I'd rather take the guard stance over a safe stance. Maybe a champion, you know? Like, again, the parry captain always wants a web of steel. He always wants it. There's no reason not to. And so then you're left with, like, Lad's Got Talent Warrior. Maybe takes a safe stance over guard, you know? Because the Ogre doesn't need a safe stance. I mean, we talked about how safe stance is turn your unit into a large impressive. Like the large, it's a perk if you read the bill, which basically gives you crit resistance, poison resistance. Like turn your unit, like why would the Ogre want to be even safer? So it's kind of useless on him. He wants guard stance too, the Ogre. So again, it's not doing much for that in my opinion. And then so it reduces it by 1 OP and 1 SP for the mastery. It increases range and it increases duration. Whew. Now, we talked about Prowl and Onslaught being pretty powerful. I rated them highly. So having those cheaper is great. But then we also talked about how you can only use so many per battle. You can only ambush a unit so many times. And it's really rough in PvP to ambush. It can cause desyncs. It's very powerful if you can like protect units. I was watching Dig versus Book Thief the other night, and there are some important ambushes to protect units and whatnot. And when they're out in the open, they're usually pretty safe, but it would have been neat to see some of these prowls and onslaughts. I was thinking at the time, like, oh, if they just had that. I think particularly Dig's novices, it's like this executioner's running around trying to murder everybody with crit chances. If you just have 1 dodge built in, that's like a big difference in living and dying for that unit. So that's prowl for you. So again, very tactically complicated kind of thing. You have to be near the units that want it. You have to like set it up. It's very cheap. It's only 1 SP. I'd have to look at like what am I truly saving by reducing all of those by 1 OP. So you have 5 OP as a henchman, right? I've I think Prowl and Onslaught, they cost 3. Kind of need to look at these, let's be honest. I think it's 3 and 1. Yeah. So now it's down to 2 and 1. So you'll have 3 OP left over with this versus just 2. So you get into the stance, you hit, then you parry, you use 1 OP, and then you have 2 left for 1 more attack. So that's the math on it. Where if you don't do that, you parry, you can get the counterattack, but then you don't have any more attack opportunity. So it gives you 1 more attack on an onslaught or a prowl, which is a good thing. And then if you consider some really powerful shields and whatnot we haven't talked about, like recovery and, well, we've maybe talked about them, but like there's been no rankings of runes, which would be a whole different thing. I think the empowering and recovery, that can give you OP back, or if you have that swift counter we were talking about, and that's just henchmen, right? You can see this with heroes shouldn't run out of OP, but maybe the math works better for them too to get most efficient use of OP. So you can see where that's very beneficial to reduce the offense points. The SP's hit or miss, you know. It maybe helps with entrenched we can look at. So here's the thing with entrenched. We're talking about sniper shot. So I can see where this is, again, powerful. All right, you've used tactician, let's say, on your henchman, or let's just anybody, but we'll say henchman. The henchman has 5 SP because it's a gunpowder. It shot off a sniper shot, used up all of its OP. It can introspect or add rush or something, have 1 OP back. You use tactician, entrenched is now only 1 OP, and if it's mastery, it's literally just 1 OP. You can, even though it's gunpowder, entrench with the gunpowder weapon for 1 OP and get another shot off. So this is where it gets really tactically complicated. That's why it's called tactician. And this is where things, I'm not the biggest fan of mercs. They're very vanilla to me. A little too European for me, no offense. It feels very, as an American, I can't like get, it's like, yeah, there were knights and shit supposedly back then. No one cares about us over here, even though we're all ex-Europeans. Not all, obviously, but I always find the Europeans like really like their little knights and stuff. But it's, so anyway, I haven't really been into the mercs, but you can see where this is very powerful all combined to make very complicated and interesting tactics. I also feel it's a bit campy, right? If you're sniper shotting and then you're using tactician and overwatching, like entrenching, and you're just not really moving forward. But in PvE, that's like can be very powerful, and that's just fine. So I can't remember what this was in vanilla. I just know it was fucking useless. So it's been totally reworked in a very smart way to make things very powerful. To get more overwatches or entrenched, to get more counterattacks. So it increases your overall offensive output. Even though if you're reading this, you're just like, what? I don't know what. You know, big brain guy meme. Like, whoa. I mean, I could take or leave these. Like, again, I think they're pretty trash overall when I rated them. But I liked these. You know, these can be very powerful. I don't know about this disengage. Maybe it's helpful for repositioning. That's a lot. So, and I feel like this one is not going to be such a dichotomy. I would think you could stack these. I honestly don't know, which would be kind of fucking nuts to have a free entrenched. But reading this, if you put basic, it reduces it by 1 offensive point. And you put mastery, it would reduce it by 1 offensive point. And an SP, if I'm reading, I don't see why it wouldn't be. Entrenched would literally be free. Your prowl, let's look at prowl this time. We looked at onslaught. Oh, you need to get rid of one. I'm so sorry. This would be one. This would be down to one OP now. So with dodge, you don't get the cheaper counter. So let's see. So you have two counterattacks left. So that would really help the prowl builds, where the web builds can have one discounted OP if they parry. So let's say you miss, it's going to help them. They can then counter twice. So that sounds really fucking good. I don't know. It's maybe something I should be using more. Oops. Let's go to the actual website. I don't know. That sounds really up here, to be quite honest. And they sound kind of like equally the same. This feels like something. Is the SP that big a difference? The turn, like the stacking, is where the power comes in. We've had a few skills like that where they're like ranked the same. The basic does a lot of things for you. The mastery does more things. Stacking them's great. This is what this one's feeling like to me. It feels definitely on the good side of good, like the upper side of good. Um, I honestly kind of think it's elite. I don't think it's godly. I mean, I haven't used it much. Maybe I'm just missing something here. I just haven't dabbled. But you could really see the power of it, especially in like PvE with overwatches and prowls and onslaughts and in trenches, and to get the most out of the OP from your team. And it's only one SP. It's not hard to train. It's leadership 6 and 9. That is not a big deal. That's no problem. So I think it's something I just haven't dabbled in, but I think it's something people should really look into if they're playing the Mercs Warband. Especially since Warband uniques are what literally make you unique and special. So, whew, it's a lot to digest. There's going to be a lot to digest on all of these. Let's just bring these up. You can see them better. You get into the passives. Combat expertise. Again, in vanilla, it's like dog shit. But when engaged with two or more, these are always awkward. When engaged with two or more, right? Increases armor absorption and melee resistance. So you have to have a unit that wants to be engaged by two or more. So in a lot of cases, that's like the ogre, maybe some heroes, right? So again, I think you're going to see a big dichotomy here between basic and mastery. Like, do I want a henchman getting like pummeled by two heroes? No, it's going to die. And then these benefits aren't going to be enough. But you can see with guard stance and combat expertise, which is why I like guard stance again, you can get 20% armor. You talk about ignore pain, which is very easy to get. 30% extra armor. You can bring the warrior priest in. Your mercs can just be running around with an insane amount of armor. Just absolutely insane amount of armor. And then you see a skill here that blocks crits, which go through armor. We'll get to that next, though. So the big caveat is it's kind of awkward as hell to get two units on you. And then this point of this game is to kill things, because you got to make them rout eventually. And things attacking you are dangerous, and they eventually will do things. Maybe get this sneaky crit in. Land poisons. Who the fuck knows? So you eventually have to like kill a unit. And then it's back to 1v1 and you've lost this entire buff, right? Which has always been the problem with Underdog too and stuff. It's like you got to slowly kill both, but really you want to just kill one. So less damage is coming in. So if you take like combat expertise, not with guard stance, but say web of steel, you can have the web and then this extra armor, but you'll be slowly having your web broken because you're up against two, and then the armor only lasts so long, and so it's good and it's bad. Something like the giant massive HP and armor of an ogre, I think this is kind of again who this is best on. And it's easy to get with his larger combat circle, get the AI locking onto him with many units. Let's see, it's a fist. I think this is again right here in the bad. All of these are just not good. They're not totally useless. It does something, but I think you're just taking them to get to the next level. Like, would a warrior take this and this for 10%? Watch out, 10% armor. That's a shield of iron. Get the shield of iron and then you can kind of buff your armor a bit and stand in there a bit. Yeah, I mean, it would be good. If you can have a warrior holding down 2 units, that's great. In PvP, I don't think 2 people would put like 2 heroes on a warrior. That'd be suicide. Like, what am I doing here? PvE, again, you won't last forever. You're eventually going to have to like intervene. So, I don't know. I just think there's better skills for them to be taking as a henchman. Now, again, I don't think this is nearly up here because the caveats of having to have 2 units. Like, that's really hard to maintain. It's hard to set up. It's usually not great for the unit long term. So it's definitely usable. I would say it's good though. I don't want to say it's way up there, but like it's good. Like you notice it. 10% less hit chance is really good. It's also, let's talk about how hard is it to make a heavy armor melee resist unit. They don't really exist, to be quite honest. Like, how are you going to get in heavy armor while having high agility? It's like really hard to pull off. Let's say you take knowledge of Mordheim, you need 15, intelligence. You take a passive slot to get 2 more movement so you can actually put heavy armor on, but now you don't have a lot of alertness because you put it all into intelligence. And it's similar with if you put a lot into agility, how are you going to get toughness and strength? Like, you'll have 3 toughness and you get crit all the time. It's just awkward as hell to build like a heavy armor melee resist unit. And it's literally just here because of the ogre, I think. Like, this could be really good on an ogre. You can take anticipation on an ogre, like guard stance, this, ignore pain, and it can just have a lot of armor. If you're like barely injuring the ogre, you're just building up its melee resistance to the point where you can't really even hit it that much anymore, and it kind of just lasts forever. It's like an immortal ogre while everyone else cleans up around the map. So I kind of think that's where that goes. Flawless positioning. I want, again, okay, it just reminded me of this. So the one build, I tried to make a young blood with some armor and combat expertise, and this is what I was just talking about. It really annoyed me that combat expertise is under intelligence. It needs 6-9 intelligence. This is a part I just don't get either. So it's something related to melee resistance, right? What does melee resistance fall under? It falls under alertness, and it falls under agility. It has nothing to do with intelligence. And if you look at armor, armor falls under strength, so you can get like armor proficient, but it also feels like a toughness kind of skill. Like, what the fuck is this doing under intelligence? I think this is how it was in vanilla, but like, this is totally mislabeled to me. Like, this really should be, in my opinion, an alertness or an agility skill, or a toughness, or strength. It should not be intelligence. So, like, it doesn't have to be leadership. Like, I just feel like it's totally awkwardly positioned. Coming back to what we were talking about, why do I want melee resistance and then intelligence? And to get to 9 intelligence and then also have 15 alertness, it's just awkward as hell. Especially then if you're melee resistance, you need to worry about serenity and passing leadership tests, and then why don't you just put a skill on it that makes them immune to leadership, which you could do in theory, but the mercs don't have a spell for that. It's just awkward as fuck. Just long story short, honestly, almost makes me want to move this down a tier, but again, the ogre saves it. But it means the young blood, who might be your best melee resistance build besides a warlock. I think a warlock can be, but he's in cloth armor. It just makes combat expertise not that good. So what I'm trying to say is I would like to see this move to alertness, and I think this should be moved to intelligence, which we're about to get into. Flawless positioning. increases crit resistance by 15 and 45. It's a direct buff because all these skills are supposed to be like direct buffs over like vanilla skills. It's just all this is resilient. And then of course you could stack them too, right? So you could have 25% just taking 4 skill points, which is really good. But you take 2 passive slots up, right? Um, what is resilient under? It's under toughness because toughness increases resiliency. Why the fuck is this under alertness? I don't get it. Alertness increases melee resistance and initiative. This comes back to like why like is it repetitive to put under toughness because resilience also there? Like I just don't understand why this needs to be 9 alertness. I think it's kind of awkward for units to get. I think in this case it was warriors I was looking at. When you look at warriors and you want to try to get 6 alertness, but you also want 9 intelligence for knowledge of Mordheim, and then 9 strength for armor proficient, so you have 6 meters movement and heavy armor, which is what a warrior should be having. It means taking this to 6 alertness costs you max leadership. You can't get max leadership and 6 alertness and 9 intelligence. And it starts to become like, what the fuck? I'll just take basic resilient. I can get that. So what is the point of a warband specific skill if a unit like the warrior really wants it, but because of his stat distribution can't get to 6 alertness without harming his leadership or movement, which are essential for a henchman? They need to not just crumple when they're holding down something terrifying, fearful, all alone. Like, you can't have them just running away. So you always need like max leadership on these guys. And this, if you talk about PvP, you don't want low morale numbers. Like, there's a lot of reasons to take that. And there's a lot of reasons to take 9 intelligence because of knowledge of Mordheim. Like, henchmen have to have that if they want to wear heavy armor and fucking move anywhere. So I really wish this would move to intelligence. I mean, it makes just as much sense as alertness in this fact that neither makes any fucking sense. You can move this to toughness or something. But because of that, I think it really brings down like the usefulness of this skill. Mork talks about like you should take this right away, get to that 6 alertness, and then take this. It's very easy to train, early levels. Your guys aren't getting crit, which is where they're the most dangerous. But again, you sacrifice. That means you're going to be locked into leather, unless you like 5-meter movement henchmen. That's a fucking treat. Or you're going to be extra scared for a while. Not that you. I've talked about this too. Like, even if you, I think they get like 10 leadership. That's still like not nearly enough to be a, you know, passing a lot of fear and terror without like the shields of bravery or other things. But it helps. Every little bit helps. You know, we're talking about like if you put 3. Let's say they start at 3 alert. I don't even know. I think the math is you're missing like 3. That's 9% overall. That's significant. Like those lost 3 leadership points, it all starts to add up. And especially morale, right? It affects your morale a bit. I think that's each one is 2, so that's 6 morale less for your warband. So what do I usually do? I usually just take resilient. So I think this is like not good. Maybe I struggle to say it's okay. Like your argument would be like, oh well, you know, who has 9 alertness or 6 alertness? You can get a warlock, or you can get your, you know, your marksman up there. It's like, well, I don't usually care about crit. Like I'm trying to avoid getting in combat with them. I'm not. Why would I be putting them in combat? Like a lot of ranged builds can't afford, or magic builds, they can't afford a passive slot for crit resistance. You give them maybe a luck rune, or you just are really not trying to put them into combat. That's the whole point of those builds. So I don't even think it's okay for them. I think resilience just better. I mean, it is better than resilient, so in that sense, it's probably is just average. It's okay. It's like the worst of good or the best of bad is kind of what this is. Again, I think this is way too much, and then the 9 is asking too much out of so many builds for the mercs who have 0 leadership immunities. They need to always take leadership. And then they all have heavy fucking armor, so they usually all need knowledge of Mordheim or mastery knowledge of Mordheim. Like, you're asking so much of them to have 9 alertness. Like, a unit that can easily get it is the Ogre, but he doesn't give a shit. Like, why is he taking mastery crit resistance? And 45% is just too much anyway. So I think this is just a shame that it has to be down here. But I think if you just switch the stat requirements, that could easily change. It could be up there wherever resilient was, but better. But because of the alertness, it makes a big fucking deal on the units that actually want it. And it pushes it down there. We can look that. I mean, it's worth kind of. I don't want to redo all these. So we'll come back as soon as I finish Hunter, and then we'll look at like the Warrior and the Champion to show what I'm talking about a bit. Hunter and Vanilla was 2040. Now it's 4080, and it's like a big change, and it's made it really good. The big caveat is you literally have to shoot or aim. You can't do a headshot. You can't do a vital shot. You can't do a sniper shot. You can't do a knee shot. You can't do a nerve shot. And this is really fucking annoying. So, like, who is this good on is the debuff guy we've talked about. Like, someone with sharpshooter, the buff debuff archer. Like, I use sharpshooter. I want to get some early shots in, buff up my sharpshooter, or maybe get some early misses, ironically, to buff, like, your ranged hit chance. So, for later when you really want it to count, you start smashing in shots. So, Hunter can proc there. You know, you can have the dismay runes on. There's a few, like, for mercs in particular, I believe it was not quick incision, but the other version, break defenses. Like, this is what you want to just shoot into, just take, you want this debuff to be getting applied. So you're shooting into guys from far, so when your melee guys get in there, they have no melee resistance left, and that's where Hunter will proc. So, like, it's good, but it's bad. The only other, and this is where it's really good, is the crossbow armor bypass Youngblood, who probably needed help. He was not a good build. He takes the Eagle Eyes. I think it's Eagle Eyes. He bypasses your armor. He takes the crossbow of perforation, and he is just shooting into you. He's not doing anything else but wanting to do raw armor bypassing damage. Now, I've talked about how I think the vital shot longbows and snipers, like, those are going to do way more. That you want to bypass armor? Snipe them and do 120 to 160, 180. I've seen some massive damage, like gunpowder range shots. It's like, that's cute, you're doing the Eagle Eyes and then doing it that way. But if I just shoot you and crit you, I can do 180 damage in one shot. So, but this is a build, and this is reliable. Do you want old reliable, or you want to go gamble, you know, today? So, Eagle Eyes with Hunter, crossbow of perforation Youngblood. This is amazing because the crossbow has a lot of SP to reload over and over. So, I have dabbled in basic, and I'm not disappointed in it. Like, I find a lot of my basic marksmen can have some passive slots left over. Like, I'm taking knowledge of Mordheim, I'm taking quick reload, and I'm done. I don't find there's like much else for me to put in there, and it's just sitting there at open slots because I'm usually taking ad rush, introspection. We talked about how I put those in godly, and then I'm taking knee shot. That's already 3 actives, in my 2 passives. And I'm kind of done with the build, honestly, right there. The rest is what do I want to dabble in. And I've dabbled in basic Hunter, and I'm not ever disappointed in it. Like, if you're done knee shotting, you've done your knee shot. You don't need to keep knee shotting the same guy. You can just go into regular shots. And when you proc the Hunter, it's like, oh, it's so satisfying. This guy can go do other things now. And you can even dabble in actives, right? You could take, again, this basic stimulus or basic combat savvy, and because Hunter was proccing, and it probably will. If you fire 3 times, you'll probably get 1 to go. You can get 2 to go, or you can get none, right? If 2 go, it's like, wow, I'm swimming in SP. So I find this is good. It might even be like great. because the way the builds are done, like there's not much else to put in there for the henchman. This is basic. Like it can be really awesome when it procs. Mork wasn't a fan. I think he needs to dabble in it some more, and I think he'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, if you're just going to knee shot, but here's the thing with henchmen, you're usually always doing a regular shot because of the math on them. They can get 7 OP. So, like, unless you're doing a headshot and a skill shot, there's usually some regular shots in there. And again, there's usually always some slots kind of left over once you've gotten what you've wanted, which is knowledge of Mordheim and quick reload. And there's not much else that a henchman would want. So you can throw in Hunter, and when you get it, it's amazing. And 40% is enough that it procs enough. It's almost a coin flip. I think this is kind of literally the same because of the builds. I think the marksman's using a lot of skill shots. I don't think he's using a lot of regular shots. The Youngblood it's the crossbow. If I was to make a Youngblood ranged unit, it would be the crossbow with perforation, with eagle eyes, and mastery hunter. I don't think that's an amazing build, but it's great for him. It really is. It makes the build, which I think puts it in this tier. It's lower because I don't think the marksman uses it, because I don't think he gets as much benefit. You could look at something with a lot of SP cost to reload. Like there's maybe a gunpowder. I think a pistol might be it, which a lot of people don't use because of these reasons. I want to say it's like the ranged version of, okay, that's crit. That's something else then. I think because we're on this unit, he can't even put it on. We can start looking at this stuff anyway. Not a pistol. Handgun. That's how often I use it. You can see like a handgun, maybe marksman taking it if he, like, so you take eagle eyes, handgun of perforation, and it has an expensive reload. 3. That's where you would take mastery hunter. You could do that build. I just think it's not a good build. But this is the one you would want mastery hunter on. Since we're doing this now, I think I have to slide this over a little. So bear with me. Not that. We were talking about why I didn't like this. So he needs to get 6. We're down to 9. Oh, I need knowledge of Mordheim. I need to be able to move in heavy armor. I have 3 leadership. What? 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 Like, that's not okay. It's brutal. I mean, this isn't amazing either, but it's better than not, right? And then you honestly probably usually always take like a mental grimoire with them, because you know you can get your 9 right there, and this is plenty of toughness. It's already maxed. What do I want, more strength? So you're probably taking the mental grimoire, and then you're getting up here to a decent fucking coin flip at least. Where is there any room for 6 alertness? You could have 999. So the answer would be, well, you know, warriors aren't supposed to wear heavy armor. It's just for show. They actually aren't meant to wear heavy armor. And I think that's just bad design. I think that's just stupid. Like in vanilla, it wasn't as big a deal, because what did you need for mastery or for basic armor? You just needed 6 strength. They could get to that really quickly. You still kind of needed the knowledge of Mordheim, don't get me wrong. But like, there's more wiggle room. You could take, now you have more toughness, and you can take a book of toughness because it's just sitting there. You can get really good toughness. which acts as more ways to keep you alive. That's more crit resistance, right? So the changes were like extra harsh on warriors, being able to get where you want them to go. And I just don't see where you can build in flawless positioning on these guys. You can look at maybe a champion. You probably get into similar issues. All right, well, I need 6. So now we can get our flawless positioning. Now he's already down to 8. 8 fucking mentals. Well, I want to wear armor, so we got to get to 9. And I want to not get totally nuked. But let's just say I'm wearing leather. I want to have 7 movement. We talked about how very powerful Knowledge of Mordheim is. All right, I got 8 leadership. Great. This tanky guy is going to shit his pants the second he sees somebody. That's awesome. So I really despise that it's that way, that alertness is required for flawless positioning. I think it makes it useless. And I think you just take luck runes, which we've talked about as well, or you just take resilient, because you're getting toughness no matter what. Now, is 3 that big a deal? Again, you could say, is it that big a deal? I mean, it is. Like, if you're getting toughness no matter what for resilient, if you look at that, now he can get mastery armor, and he can get basic resilient. It's no fucking problem. These things do matter. So we can look again, maybe the warlock is something that kind of works on, because look, you're already there. And maybe you're not getting his toughness that high. You know, okay, it works on the warlock. So if you're making a warlock that enters combat, though, he's going to be a melee resistance build. And he's probably not going to be getting hit that much. And the passive slot's better used for maybe Serenity and other things like that. You could toss it in there. You probably want magic resistance instead if it's PvP. Again, it was really bad on the Youngblood. He starts with it, but like this leadership's an issue. And I think this one was combat expertise, which is where we were having problems. So you want to get to that 15 alertness, go fuck yourself. Okay, I need 15. I want awareness. I now can't even get this. We'll take less leadership and fail everything. You know, well, I need 9 for the mastery version, right? And then now my tank's just, you know, no problem. He's a dreg. I don't know. So if these like could move around a little, I think it would do wonders. Then you could drop that, you know, and you can get that to at least better where it has to be. And this could be under alertness, and he'd be able to get combat expertise, no problems. I think those just kind of need tweaked. I've talked about it on the forums, so I can kind of talk about it now here. And that's probably enough talking about it. But that's how it affects my rankings. It's worth pointing out why and how it's affecting them. This is going to be a long one. Almost an hour in already. So, sisters. I mean, I can always split them up, like warband to warband. But whatever, we're in it for the long haul. If you want to see sisters, cut to 50 minutes. How would you know that already? That looks better there. I must have fucked with the size of it. Alright, they actually all fit here. So you have Prayer of Swiftness, Righteous Fury, and Sign of Sigmar. This is a weird one too, but it works because sisters have massive martial or mentals. Let me see, I don't think I have this all on here actually. Oh, we don't care about 4 Sigmar. Alright, so this is an intelligence-based skill, even though it's clearly about agility. There's something to be said for, well, you know, you don't have to take all this agility, but you can still kind of get some agility from it. I think that would be, Paranoia is probably typing on Discord saying that eventually. Well, the point of this is if you have it in different categories, it can give you that stat in a sense without investing in that stat. The thing about dodge is you want more of it. You want to get to a break point. So getting 9, which would be mastery for something like this, and then the 30, it starts to get to a good point. Like, let's see, you can't see this. We're at 15% dodge. I don't have cloth on or anything. 9 now gets me to 45, and this will now get me to 75 with only 9, right? That's pretty good. So you start to get like, so you don't have to take mastery avoid or avoid basic. You can just take prayer swiftness with like your 15 agility, and it's great. Either way, this is basically, I always call this the vagina. It's like a vagina right here. I can't help myself. There's the asshole and the thighs, and you got your just vagina. It is the sisters, so it makes sense. It's the novice loves this because the novice is dodge based. You can make a awkward, weird dodge based maiden. I've seen. I think you're better off still just taking. You guys will not unsee it now. Like there's the pubic hair clearly. um, there's not many other dodge based units for the sisters, so we're like literally just talking about the novice. You can maybe say a purifier. You can make like a dodge based purifier if you really wanted. I think basic's fine. I haven't really invested in it much though. I feel like there's not enough room in the novice's build. I think they're very passive heavy. And then you still need sidestep, and then I like righteous fury on them. You start to run out of like skill, and then eventually you're like, okay, I would take this, but I'm kind of out of skill points now. Is how I feel. And then like just missing is enough because of their passive. On miss, they gain 10% dodge chance. Where this is just 2 SP, you gain 15 for 2%. So like I'd rather just kind of miss. So I don't think it's that good. I think you can take it. It's okay. It's usable. So it's okay. I'd almost say not good because of the other stuff, but I think it's okay to just call it okay. If you really want to go the dodge route instead, you just take it. Maybe drop a passive, maybe less actives. But I really like Feint, Righteous Fury, Armor Break on novices. It's hard to take all three. I'm usually sacrificing one anyway, let alone room for Sign of Sigmar. Like I just struggle to see it. Like Feint, if you're taking melee resistance, augurs or builds, which I think sisters can do really well, because of another thing we'll talk about here, Sign of Sigmar. Armor break, because they really fucking struggle with armor. They have 0 armor bypass except comets, and I've been on a rant about how shitty those are now. So magic is their armor bypass. So they have no armor bypass. So armor break is really important for them. And then Righteous Fury is important for novices who we're talking about who would use this because they want to miss. And Righteous Fury, it's only 5%, but it gives you more chance to miss. If you land it, you've removed OP and SP, which is great. If you miss, you've gained dodge, which is great. So it's like the better version of Prayer of Swiftness, in my opinion. So I think it's not that good. Now, who would take Mastery Prayer of Swiftness would be a Lad's Got Talent novice, which no one's fucking taking. The only other unit would be an augur. I haven't talked about an augur at all, but an augur would maybe take this. But I think augurs are so melee resistance focused that the dodge isn't a big deal. You can clearly make like a mastery sidestep version, but I've talked about mastery sidestep. I think it's just shit. Like basic sidestep plus melee resistance feels way better than just mastery sidestep. So I struggle to see a role for this, and in practice, you rarely see people take it as well. So I think it's just not good because of the builds that use it, and then what it's buffing, and the novice is self-building dodge, and the augur's melee resistance. So honestly, it feels bad. It feels like in the middle of not useful. It's just not good. It's good. It's great. You know what it does is it's pretty cool. 30% dodge for 3 turns. I just don't know of any mastery level unit building that. So it's a problem. Righteous Fury, a very unique skill for the sisters. The closest comparisons are palsy for the cult, and then like magics that remove OP. Of course, there's poisons too for the Skaven, but it's not the same because poison has to have poison bite. This is literally just an attack. So the closest comparison is also like hamstring, which is where I came up with hamstring and righteous fury in my tournament warband. I'm like, there's no active attack that removes OP unless I'm losing my mind. Like generic one, right? The poisons again are different, and the other ones are ranged, like crippling and whatever shot. I think it's crippling. The other one moves SP. But anyway, so this removes OP and SP as a melee attack. Again, there's heart failure, gaze of the horn, other magics that remove it. And the only other comparison again is touch of palsy. Now touch of palsy is only 1. So this one has a big penalty because it removes 2 for 3 turns, and you cannot remove it. You can't remove this fucking thing. It is stuck on you. It's a mechanic, I think is how it acts as. And you're just not getting it off. So this is annoying enough. If you put this on a henchman, it fucks them up. Like, they're at 5 OP. They've lost 1. If they want to do like skilled attacks, they're going to have to adrenaline rush. They can maybe, if they're two-handers, they have to adrenaline rush. Like, you start to fuck with them pretty bad. If it's the AI, they don't know all that. It's really good against the computer. The computer runs around with dual weapons or great weapons. You use this, they're fucked. The hero's fucked. He's not going to be able to get 3 attacks off. Your sidestep and basic sidestep and web are going to be really good. And it's only minus 5% chance. I mean, if you train it right away, I think it's like people in the Sisters Warband, some units should be having this. Novices, if nobody else. Like, that's a given on a novice. I don't see why your sisters wouldn't have it also. It's really fucking good at what it does. Only 5% is fine. Like, and you can really fuck up a unit, really, truly, in PvP, just by itself. Like, forcing the AI or a player to have to use adrenaline rushes and not be able to have its full attack power is really good. Like, we talk about impressives. I don't know. I think I have at this point. You take basic ad rush so you can get 5 attacks with the 9 just because they don't tire. Just one of these will fuck that up. They're only get 4 attacks off. Unless they have other tools like mastery ad rush. You know, they'd have to find other ways to do that. So I think the mastery is a bit more awkward. It's really good. Like, it's really good. But the minus 25 is a big malice. Like, this is no joke. This is like, you're talking about like overpower territory. Fuck, I don't even think overpower is this bad. Like, it's a big deal. Yeah, it's worse than overpower. Like that's crazy. So, like, it doesn't cost nearly as much. That's where it's not as painful. But boy, is it painful to get past this malice. So I've taken it on my sister superiors, and because of that, I have to take madcaps, I have to take maces, I have to take insults. I have a wolf priest that can give his spell for increased hit chance, but then you can't disengage, which is really fucking annoying. So there's ways to get over it, but boy, is it a rough penalty. So I don't think everyone's taking it. It wasn't going to be there. It's just... So it's not here. I think it's just great. It's not elite even. Like, you have to have a strategy around it. You can fuck up units even worse, right? You can, but you start to like, so let's say it's a henchman with a great weapon. You've used this, it's still going to get an attack off. It's getting an attack off with the great weapon. You haven't gotten to a point. If you've taken basic and mastery, they have 2 OP left. They're still getting their great attack off. Like, you're not getting to certain break points. If it's a hero with a great weapon, he's still getting 2 attacks off. The AI. You've taken him from 9 to 6. Like, taking him to the 8 was plenty. So you're starting to get like to more awkward breakpoints. Now, something like a demon, which are common and deadlies and, you know, this level that you're going to be playing at against the AI, it can fuck them up because they have 10 SOP. So you take away 1, you fuck them up. You take away 3, you fuck them up. That's even one. Each time you land this, it's taking away an attack. You could say that for impressives too against the AI. Now again, they don't know how to use ad rush, so it's not as true, but if you just land this one's not as important. This one doesn't do as much against the AI because they don't know how to ad rush. You take them from 9 to 8, you haven't really done anything except prevented they usually always have special attacks. Well, if you can land this, it fucks them up. So it's great. It's great, but it's a lot more awkward to use. It's not as standard, but it's still like a really powerful tool in my opinion. Sign of Sigmar is like literally kind of like the Mercs. What was it? We didn't rate it very highly. Flawless positioning? No, that was for crit resistance. Fuck, what? Combat expertise? I think it's called combat expertise. It's a lot like it in that it increases melee resistance, but this time range resistance instead of armor. And then the caveat is you don't have to be engaged by 2 units, but it's not a passive, it's an active now. So you have to use SP to activate it, where that is just you walk into combat and try to get 2 units on you. So they're similar but different, clearly. I don't even know what its closest like comparison would be to an active. I would say maybe defensive stance or careful approach. I think what ends up happening is it's just not good enough. Like splitting into 2 stats is interesting, but I think like if this is going to replace a vanilla skill, right? So is it going to replace defensive stance? I would say no, it's not. Now your other argument would be no, you take both. Don't you understand? You use 5 SP a turn. Well, okay, you use it once in theory, but it becomes SP heavy, just so heavy. So I think this honestly needs to be 10% for 2 turns and 15% for 3 turns. I think you'd see it a lot more. So the basic just strikes me as something as a stepping stone, and we've been putting them here. I'll just keep it. Oh, you're just randomly putting there. I think, again, there's a use. There is a use. You can make a novice that's melee resistance heavy, and you could put this in there. You could take basic awareness, basic shield specialist, and you start to put all these bad things together, and maybe you get to an okay build, right? But I still think it's just bad. I don't think there's really many. The sisters are never going to touch this. Will a hero just take this? Probably not. I think you'd rather take basic feint. If you're going to take a basic thing, you're taking basic feint. You're going to take basic careful approach. Like I think it gives you more overall. Like the 10% melee is better than the 5 and 5. The 20% ranged is better than the 5 and 5. So it's losing anything it's competing with. And that's not good. That is a bad thing. So mastery, it cannot be up here because of the way it's split. I've actually been doing the math on this. I was like, would I rather take, because this is how the sisters are, would I rather take protect or divine aegis, which we'll talk about, which is down here. Would I rather have this or feint or careful approach, basic, mastery? You start looking at all these things, and this thing loses like to most combinations, like every time. Like, oh, okay, I'd rather just feint, or I'd rather take mastery feint, or I'd rather take basic careful approach and basic this. Like, why am I spending 6 skill points when I could spend 2-2-2 or 2-2 and to get better results? And that's not a good design. That's a bad design. And I think it needs looked at. I think this needs to be 15% for that reason. Like, I take careful approach, I get 20% for 2 skill points. Okay? I take feint, I get 10% for is it costing more? Okay. But we're talking about melee resistance builds that aren't like out to do a lot of damage. They're literally just trying to survive. So now I have the 10% and I also have 20%. 10% and 20% is greater than 10% and 10%. And that's 2 less skill points. Like what in the actual fuck, right? So I don't get it. Like it has to compete with stuff like that. If you toss in like, and then I took this one. Where's divine? I took this, so now we're up to 6. I now have 40% range resistance, 10% melee resistance for the same 6 skill points. It's failing terribly. Honestly, it's not good. Like, looking at it live like this is just angering me more. So, well, you stack them, don't you get it? You stack. There's only so many skill points, actives, and passives, right? And it's not good. I would rather just take all of those other skills. This needs looked at again by Paranoia. I think it needs buffed. If it's not comparing and competing with, does it need to be easy to master? So then the math works. Like, if feint and careful approach alone are replacing this, but better, you have a problem. Because you're at the end of a melee resistance build, you're just like smushing in like basic skills. Because you're usually taking basic shield or mastery shield specialist, mastery awareness, mastery serenity. You've just used a chunk of your skill points, and they're all passives. So then you're looking at your actives, like, do I want mastery defensive stance, mastery sidestep, basic sidestep? Do I want mastery sign of Sigmar? No, I don't. I'd rather take these basics. Like, this is a problem. And it makes it bad, and I wish it wasn't bad. I wish this was 10 and this is 15, or make them easy to train. Like, something has to give with this. I don't know how he came to the math with this. I don't know if there's like mod creep, like power creep. Like, he forgot it existed and hasn't come back to it or looked at it, and like he forgot careful approach is way fucking better now, or that divine aegis is way fucking better now, or that shield special, like, all these things are way fucking better now, and on the tier of melee resistance things, this is just ass. That's my best guess of what's happened. So please look at that again, because warband uniques are supposed to be better versions of what exists, not shittier versions. And I put it here, right? Like, you're like, oh, you say all that, it should be trash. I mean, you can stack it, and that is kind of the point. It is bad though. Like, 6 skill points is a big deal. It's a big fucking deal. And you'd rather take, like, you could take the master version, then tack on the basic careful approach and then the basic feint. But for the 10 and 10, it just isn't working. It just really isn't working. It is bad. I don't even think it's not good anymore, talking about it more. Make it trivial to train, and it's fine. The math is off, again, for skill points to return on investment. And then we get to another shitty one. Absolute Faith. Increases chance to pass all alone, fear, terror, and route tests by 15%. Okay. I feel like I have to put this up here now. I've talked about it with that. Nerves of Steel. Increases chance to... This is what it's supposed to kind of replace. Fear and terror by 20, 15, 20, 15? Well, I've given you all alone. Like, okay, the one that's already, 10% higher. Like, so you've given me 5% in a sense to all alone. Well, I've given you route tests. Okay, well, henchmen don't take route tests. Thanks. They don't take a route test. This is a basic skill. I don't understand Absolute Faith. I just don't get it. Why it has to be bad. Why don't we make that 20%? And then, okay, yes, I will always take this over Nerves of Steel. A shield. The shield gives like 40%. Like, Shield of Bravery. Like, it is crushed by the rune, the enchantment. It's just absolutely crushed. The counter argument, I already see him laying it out, is, well, it also replaces Cool-Headed, which gives 20%, but it doesn't quite replace it. Again, I put this in like awful category, I believe. If you have a unit, a henchman, and an all alone, and you're not fixing that, it's a dead unit very quickly. Like the all alone is not a big deal. What is a big deal, which will ruin a build, if a novice fails... I can't remember if it's fear. We'll just say it's fear. Your agility goes to 1, and it's not dodging anything. I cannot allow a novice to fail a fear test. So I need fear. in terror. The other one drops alertness. I think either way, it's like fucking up a novice, which relies on like some base melee resistance and dodging. And the fact that this isn't good enough for a novice, which is what this warband is, it's shitty. It's just shitty. Now, you can look at the mastery, and that's something different. We'll look at that. It starts to get a lot better. But like the basic versions need to be better than the vanilla versions, and it's not that on any level. So it's bad to really bad. I would say really bad. If a shield and a vanilla skill is replacing it, then it's not good at all. Now you could say, well, my hero's going to take it. It's a passive. Passives, I think the community overall agrees passives are more valuable than actives. Are they going to slot this in there? Like the route test, and is that big a deal? I just struggle to see it, honestly. Like, we'll talk about the mastery, and I think that's where you would maybe go if that's a strategy you're talking about. I think it just needs fixed, and the only way it's a simple fix, you just make it 20%. It's simple as shit. You just make it. Now, where did I rank Nerves of Steel? I think it wasn't that high anyway, right? So if you make this 20%, all right, we got something. I'll still probably just use the shield or the pendant, thanks though, or the spell or any other fucking tool to worry about fear and terror. But I am like, it's harsh. Am I being harsh on it? Well, you can take this and Nerves of Steel. That's the point, and then you can really waste 2 passive slots. All right. I mean, so maybe it's bad. I mean, I do say, is it usable as okay tier? It's just like, yes, it's usable, but it's just pissing me off. It's worse than the vanilla version, is what this is about, because this is a warband specific passive, and they're supposed to be superior to the vanilla version, and that's a different kind of deserves a different kind of ranking. So it's shitty. Now, again, what is the route test? The route test, when you go below the morale threshold, you want to stay on the battlefield. In PvE, why would I possibly want to keep dying? So this is a PvP thing. So that's already like moves it lower. If it's not usable for both, it's not as good. And then you look at Nerves of Steel again, because all I really care about is fear and terror. I'm not leaving my unit in all alones to just eventually die. That's retarded. Sorry, that's mean to say. That is not a wise choice. It's half as good and costs 2 more skill points. What in the actual fuck are we doing here? Honestly, I don't understand. So in PvE, you can stay on the field and die more. If you're all alone, you can leave that guy just getting pummeled more, or the girl, really. Like, no, stay there. You're doing great. I know your stance is broken, and you're just eating fucking hits, but just stand in there a little longer. Like, there are builds, okay, where, again, you want it to be in there all alone, but the augur does not struggle with its leadership. To be a born leader augur, too, she is fine in that category, and that's kind of the only unit you want in all alones. Maybe the matriarch, but again, she does fine with leadership. So just help me understand what happened here. Again, it's like this power creep has happened here, and I think he forgot. Like, he buffed the shit out of Nerves of Steel. If I had to guess, I'd look back at patch notes. Oh, Nerves of Steel is like really needs some help. Oh, I forgot this existed. So for 2 less skill points, I can get significantly more fear and terror resistance. It just, looking at it right now, typing in a Discord, it's hard to express my anger at it. Looking at it here on the stream in a tier ranker, it just pisses me off. So I've been doing this a while, man. I'm like losing my voice and getting angry. I need more coffee. I don't know what else there is to say. Divine Aegis, what is this? This one works. Intelligence is a range resistant skill now. So it's in the skill. That makes sense. This made sense. We were talking about that with mercs. Like, these make sense, right? This is weapon skill. Like, we talked about this could maybe be under agility. I think I've lost one of them. Okay, that doesn't make sense in a way. Well, it does with the range resistance. So some of them make sense. It comes back to then what is going on with the mercs. Because you moved the stats around from vanilla to the mod. So maybe it made sense then when it was under that skill with vanilla because range resistance or whatever. I don't know, right? But it doesn't make sense anymore with the mercs, but I digress. Divine Aegis is replacing concealment. I think it's important to kind of look at these as we do them. Which I believe is an agility. That must be under alertness? Okay, see, that makes sense because this used to be range resistance. Interesting. Again, this is another one. Like, it's now moved to intelligence and agility. So should concealment be under intelligence now? But anyway, he might have to look at stuff like that. Because we was talking about if you move things around or do things, maybe they become better suddenly because of stat requirements. But this is clearly a straight upgrade. It's minuscule. It's 5% and 10%. I mean, that kind of follows the pattern he did with a lot of things, so that's fine. Again, you can argue, which again comes back to why this is so shitty. If you take basic Divine Aegis and basic concealment, you can get 35% range resistance. Or you could have 10. You know, I had just. So does Divine Aegis do its job? Yeah. Is range that much to worry about? Like, how else do you stop range from hurting you? Armor. You just fucking wear armor. The guy's shooting you, but it's not doing a lot of damage. So armor blocks melee and ranged without worrying just about ranged. What else is a great thing that sisters have that can really stop range resistance or ranged is Divine Revelation. They have a spell that you can spam out on everybody, making Divine Aegis and Divine Revel. It's like so divine. They're just simply divine. Not as useful. So I think it struggles from the spell blocking it. I think it struggles from range resistance isn't that big a deal. The Maiden has a built-in one, so she doesn't really need it. Like, you could really fuck over a ranged team, i.e. mercs. There's not many else left anymore. By taking this. But I don't know if you're wasting like a passive slot. There's no like easy to train here again either, which I feel like it kind of needs to be competitive. Do I want 20% range resistance on a henchman? Like, you know what I'd rather have? The one right below it. I'd way rather have that, honestly. This is just, it's easier to get range resistance on a unit. You get some intelligence, you get some agility, like the novice is going to have those. Then you get a shield. Then you get in combat. You have like really good range resistance. You put Divine Revelation on it, she doesn't give a shit. You can't really buff magic resistance except taking intelligence and then amulet, and then you're scared of everything, right? Like, this is much more valuable than this. So I think literally within the categories, it's struggling. They're both 20. Like, magic's a bigger deal. So they're okay, I guess. You can, like, you're really fucking and the AI is shitty with range. Let's talk about that for a second. Right? They're bad with magic, but they're also bad with range. So they're okay. They're better than concealment. I wish I could kind of remember where I put concealment because it might dictate where I put these. And I'd feel bad if. But also, I'm doing this as a caveat as these are warband uniques. Like, how we're looking at them is like everyone could get concealment. Only sisters can get this. And it's competing with other passives within the category, right? Let alone the vanilla versions. And so I do wish I knew where I put that, but I also, it's like, it's not good enough within its own warband uniques to compete when you consider Divine Revelation. I don't have to consider the entirety of every warband. I have to just consider sisters. And Divine Revelation's a big deal. It's a big, big deal. So they're just okay. I don't know. I don't want to say they're bad. It blocks an entire category. I've been looking at builds. If I just took some sisters and took Mastery Protection of Sigmar, Mastery Range Resistance, and just started walking around, You could negate like most ranged attack against your warband, and that's pretty powerful. Like it's 12 skill points, but like throw those on there and then worry about the rest. I think that's like fine. Like you could take decent melee resistances, you could take stances, and I think people will struggle to hurt the sisters. So I think that's okay. I think that's a way you can build them. Um, Protection of Sigmar is just an upgraded version. Again, we talked about this. He just did this with concealment. It's 5 and 10. It's literally follows the same pattern. You can take both, which is the power of it too. I think that is where 15 and 20, like that can be really good for just 4 skill points. 40% is significant. It's the best in the game. Um, the Maiden definitely likes that. There's a lot of builds that really like it. I would say it's elite. I think most of my builds are taking basic. It's only 90 gold. It's only 6 intelligence. Most of my builds are probably taking at least passive or basic 20% magic resistance. This one's a bit overkill, but I still think it's great. I mean, it is, but it isn't overkill, right? But like the Maiden can take, or certain units can take Frenzy. Frenzy blocks your spell casting, though. So in this sense, like I think taking this is even better. Like say the Matriarch takes Frenzy, it blocks her casting, right? The Purifier takes it, it blocks her casting. So in this sense, like sisters are harmed by not being able to take Frenzy. It's a big deal for them, honestly. Um, I think it punishes them, and that's why this has to be stronger. But because they can't take Frenzy, they can't quite get to the breakpoints they want. They don't have magic or fear and leadership immunity on any unit either, so they need a lot of leadership. And I don't know if we're going to go over the spell books, but the Hearts of Griffin is terrible. It doesn't even give immunity to terror. What is the point of the spell? It just hasn't been touched from vanilla for some reason, and it's really terrible. So they have to worry about leadership, and they can't take frenzy. So they kind of need this, but 6 skill points hurts. Like the Zinch version is 4 for 30, so that's how it's better than the vanilla. The cult has less skill points overall, though, too, so it's like almost in a sense the same cost. I think the witch hunters, they are literally witch hunters, have the best, as they should, and we'll talk about them here shortly, I guess. Um, but I think resist magic I had kind of lower, so it's better than resist magic. It may have been down here because I was talking about frenzy there too. So I think it's great on the maiden, but it's not great enough. But it definitely does the job. I don't know how like to keep drowning on about it. A lot of times this 20% for just 2 skill points and the 4, I don't, is the 20% for 4 better? I think the math's off a little bit again. If you think like 2 skill points got me 20, 4 skill points or 6 should get me 60, shouldn't it? If each 2 skill points. I've talked about this with web. Well, that's overkill, but okay, then why don't you make this like easy to train? If per 1 skill point I'm getting 10%, that would fit the math, right? I think that could help. But then it would be maybe godly. It's too easy to train. Oh my god, I'm fighting sisters. There's no way I'm getting through their magic. I don't know. Whew, I'm hitting a wall. Just give me 1 second. Pause it, come back in a minute. I'm going to get coffee and stretch a little. Mark was talking about like no, I mean I don't want like when no one's in chat though, it's you feel like an absolute psychopath like talking to yourself. It's like mentally exhausting, honestly. I know this is going like onto YouTube for like posterity and stuff, but it's like I feel like I'm an absolute psychopath. Um, so you have witch hunters, the last of the order warbands. Trial by pain, burn the witch, and fanatical zeal. Trial by pain, everyone wants to like it. You see this and you're like, that's cute. I like what this does. But ultimately, like, it's not that good. But it's good, but it's not that good. So you want to stack like basic and mastery right away. So you're like, okay, I can do 15 to 25 if I get both up. That's 20 damage to attack, which is good, but it's not that good. It's just like any of these dots, like poison, what is it, blessed with filth, the fire. Like, it's cool, but it's not going to kill anybody, and that's a problem. Like, and they can literally stop themselves from taking the damage by not attacking. Like, in Mordheim, you need to drop targets. They need to die. They need to fall over and die so you don't take damage, right? And you can loot the map safer. Like, you need the units to die. They can suddenly crit you. Like, you really can't die in PvE because it's so harsh. So waiting for the AI to like kill themselves by keep attacking you and maybe getting some hits in, like that's not great, right? And 20 isn't enough, and the AI is barely efficient enough to like get a lot of attacks off. So like it's not that great. In PvP it can be really good. You like put this on like an important impressive and they attack 5 times, they've taken 100 damage on average, right? If you get both. If you get both, that's the big caveat. If you only get basic, it's not that big a deal. It's, what is that, 62-ish, whatever it is, 12.5 cut in half. Which is something, but it's not going to kill them. It's not going to kill them at all. For 3 turns, 180 damage with mastery. Let's say it's, what was it, 20? It's 100. 200, 300 over 3 turns. It's a third of their health, half. Like, it's not going to kill them. So what was the point of it? He's meanwhile been smashing up your team. So, well, every damage adds up. You should be attacking them too. And that's also true. And that's where it's like, okay, this is good. I like this. But it kind of needs to be stacked with other things. So you need the executioner. This is where we've talked about it on, and I really would like to see it, but I also think I'd hate it. But I really want to see it. Like, burn the witch. Like, if this also added, like, a little fire damage. Like, it needs more, like, dots to get to this point. They don't have many other dots. Damage over time. It's the executioner with his fire. It's only one of them. And he's probably just murdering shit anyway. We'll get to him, maybe. But, like, he's killing things so quick that the fire is usually not that big a fucking deal. It can be, but it's like, well, I've killed you anyway. And then if you look at any other unit, it's the Wolf Priest. So he's a DLC. He's not a core Witch Hunter's unit. You could 100% bring him, but he has the spell where if you attack, you take damage. And that's what you really have to do. I think it's called Snow King's Decree. And it's actually stronger than Trial. And you can do that. It's cute. You can put that on there, and then people are really hurting themselves. What's up, Added? Thank you for saying hello. I've been like sitting here like a psychopath, talking to the wall. So you put that with Trial by Pain, you can start to really do a lot of dots to a unit attacking you. But, I don't know. I don't know if it needs buffed. Like, the only other thing is you can't switch weapons. Okay. I really don't think that's that major of a thing. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe it needs, like, some other better secondary on it to make it, like, truly something you love. Now, the only other thing about Trial by Pain, which we'll mention for 2 seconds, is you can use it with a blunderbuss. It's the only skill you can use with a blunderbuss. But I think only one or two fucking witch hunters can use a blunderbuss. So it's not like the marksman can use this. So yeah, I know. No one's been chatting though. Makes it. I know. Thank you for watching. Hopefully everyone's enthralled. The mental gymnastics are tough though. Like keeping focus. It's good to take these little breaks mentally, or be like, right, right, right. Am I right, right, right? No, you're wrong. Right? Like there's something to be said. Anyway, so basic, like a zealot. In other words, it's literally the only unit can take it. A ranged zealot. Do we like that build? It's okay. Do we like that it does 7.5 on average? You have to keep kind of reapplying it. Zealots kind of struggle. They can get good ballistic skill, but they don't have like that built-in fail-safe that marksmen have. So they can kind of struggle to land this in combat and then to keep it up, right? And would I want to do trial by pain or just fucking knee shot you? If you remember ballistic skills, like there are so many good ballistic skills, and this has to fight into there. I love that there's a little bone here. Like, does there have to be a bone? I'm not sure what bone that is. The hand doesn't have a bone like that. it's like a fucking femur coming out of the hand. I don't know. The radius and ulna are now fused and come to a point and go backwards. I guess it's your humerus is like smashed into your hand. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's just okay. Because all of those other ballistic skills that a zealot would rather take are up here. Like knee shot, hand shot, crippling shot. All right, I'll do this. Like you can make a build around it. It's cute. Everyone should try it once. But I would rather take all of those other ballistic skills. And this is the category where you could like I'm hopefully gonna play the witch hunters in this upcoming tournament or Battle of Behemoth 3. And I could take a wolf priest, a zealot henchman, and a ranged hero of some sort, and take mastery. And maybe I'll even take 2 wolf priests. Like the math starts to get stupid. And I'll stack basic and mastery trial by pain and basic and mastery Snow King's Decree, and you're gonna fucking hate life. And then you'll walk up and just heal it, and it'll all be for nothing. And what was the fucking point? Because you want to kill units in this game. You just want to kill units. You don't want to fucking tickle them with a fucking tickler. It just gets them excited, which comes back to the other problem we've been talking about. Do I want to take trial by pain mastery? I could. Or I could just fucking master knee shot you. I could just mastery fucking nerve shot you. Crippling shot you. I could headshot your fucking ass. Mighty charge you and rip your fucking body limb to limb. So, there he is. So it's okay. You can build a strategy around it. I think you'd rather do all those other things, honestly. I think either the dot needs to be higher, which is cruel, or this really needs more secondaries that are actually kind of useful. Like, trial by pain also removes 1 OP. Okay. So why do I was just thinking about crippling, right? Crippling, hand shot. They're very like, ow, you got me in the fucking hand that has a femur coming out of it. Or you got me in the arm. Like, so if you put this on there, okay, I'll take trial by pain with my henchman instead of crippling shot. So I've done crippling shot, but now you have this little dot. Cute. Now it's a better crippling shot, right? And then I take, it doesn't need this. It doesn't need 2. Like, that's too strong. But say, again, the mastery removes offensive points by 1, but then does this, you know? Now we're on to something. Now we have, like, a better crippling shot. And I might take this, right? Of course, Paranoia loves you can't switch. Yes. No one likes it's cute. Honestly, it's cute. I've picked up word stones and get this all the time, and I'm like, could have been +1 OP to charges and attacks. Like it's like the least big of a deal. Oh, I can't switch weapons. I'll just have to keep using the very efficient weapons I wanted on my unit in the first place. Like if it's a ranged unit, you've prevented it from switching weapons. Some reason I've left my marksman out in the open and you've shot it. Well, it can keep shooting you first of all. But then you lock it into melee, okay. It could flee and just keep shooting you. Okay, you finally locked it against the wall. It can't switch weapons. Well, it's fucking dead anyway. It's locked against the wall. It's locked against the wall and it's a ranged unit. Mission accomplished. Like I don't really see what's a big deal with I can't switch my fucking weapons. I don't think that's like good enough for me to take this over mastery knee shot, mastery anything fucking else. Unless I'm specifically doing this cute little build that isn't that great because it's a dot. So I think you need to either add a secondary that matters. I don't know. It doesn't need to be that. Let's make it. What was the other one? Hand shot? You're shooting the fucking hands. Look. Oh, ow! Double hand shot. If you put this on there and trial by pain, you're onto something now, right? You've now made something that's vanilla but better. I agree. Like, there's no vanilla version of trial by pain, so it's very special and unique. But it's not good enough to replace literally vanilla skilled shots that archers can take. And that is a problem. Like my ranged list, there is a lot of things way at the top. Mork's range list, a lot of things were way at the top. So, again, have you ever, literally, ever seen the AI swap weapons? A handful of times, maybe. They come out with a bow and are like, what am I doing? And then they run into combat. That's about the only time I see that. So, PvP, okay, maybe it's okay. Maybe. I think I'd rather just knee shot you and murder you. Like, oh, look at that guy. I knee shot him, and now I get a second turn and I just kill him. Instead of, you can't switch your weapons. Like, it just doesn't compete with any of the ranged things. So it's just okay. You can make a build around it. There's no femur in your fucking hand. It doesn't make sense. Put the correct fucking hand bones in there, okay? If it's going to be that bad, at least get your anatomy right, okay? That's really dumb. Anyway, I think those would be great ways to fix it. Maybe you can make it just easy to train because I'm not wasting 6 skill points and a shot on trial by pain. It's cute. You could maybe take it once you've taken mastery knee shot, of course. Mork, after he's definitely taking mastery nerve shot and probably mastery knee shot. Mork might finally take trial by pain mastery, but he's out of skill points, honestly. Let's face it. And that's its problem. That's the point, right? That's why it's a problem. I shouldn't have to, like, I don't know. It's just not that good. It's a shame. I think it could be better. If you make this 15 to 20 or 10 to 20, maybe you're getting somewhere too. Dots are just bad because you want to kill things. There's better shots to take. I don't know. Burn the Witch, again, we have to talk about PvE. I want the AI to cast spells on me. Please fucking cast spells on me. So this is actively like bad. I mean, I say that jokingly. They can be annoying. Like every now and again they'll do a sinful speech on you and you're like, fuck. Or the maiden drops like a 70 damage comment and you're like, what the fuck was that? Because of the deadly buffs, their comments do more. So, and she's got 20 intelligence, right? Maybe she has the passives. I don't know if they take those. Now, PvP, it's a different beast. This is really good, and it's effective. It's perfectly effective with the basic. If you hit him, it increases spell casting cost by 1 offensive point for 2 turns. It stacks. So if you get your units onto the mage, It hits this a couple times. It's fucked. It's like your lightning's fucked. You're fucking it up. You have this right here. Like if mastery casting cost penalty increases to 2 OP for 3 turns, -1 SP to use, then okay, I could keep swinging. This SP right here is always the limiting factor between both. You can only swing so many goddamn times with that SP thing. And usually if you're catching this mage, you've ran across and caught it, because that motherfucker's up in the building behind 3 fucking henchmen, staring at the corner, hidden fucking away, secretly, the warlock hiding. Like, so you've taken all your SP, maybe you even had to disengage, you got chart, you finally got to that motherfucker. You're getting like 1 swing off because of this SP. So it's an issue with the mastery, 100%. Like if the basic's doing the job and they both cost SP, no one's taking this. And it's been shown over and over and over that no one's taking it. So in PvP, it's good. It still costs SP. You still got to get there. It does its job pretty quickly. And it's good. You will throw it on henchmen, maybe heroes. But it's only good because you're not taking it in PvE. This is fucking useless. You're already like falling out of this tier because it's not good in PvP. You could say it's great, but I also don't think it just, like, if you're on the warlock too, you're probably like killing it pretty quickly, right? So you're not going to get that much benefit out of it that long. Jaw strike is probably better even too. You're probably taking it maybe in conjunction with it. Like this is just actively really bad because it is not easy to master, right? I don't see easy to master. It doesn't remove the SP penalty. Both stack. So once you get a couple on, the guy's fucked. Oh, I only get 1 lightning. Either way, like it just doesn't make any sense for the mastery, especially PvE. It's just no one takes it. No one takes it because the basic's good enough. It's not easy to master. There's no SP decrease cost. It just is doing more of the same quicker. But you're probably, once you're in the guy's face, definitely on turn 2, you're just smashing these into that mage and it's done for. So he's saying trial has to be the worst of the dots. I don't know what blessed with filth is. You'd have to look up blessed with filth to add it to that list, I feel. It has to be the worst because Snow King's decree can be removed. It's true. Trial can't be. It can be removed with Dispel, Etheric Elixir. Will the AI remove it? No. And then Boon is even better because that gives you increased hit chance. So you're buffing the AI. So Boon's even better at 20 to 30. I mean, if we're talking about the AI, they're not going to remove any of them. So it's literally the shittiest in PvE every single time. In PvP, well, you got the switch weapon, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just not good enough. It needs something else. It does. It really needs. And I don't think it needs dots. I think the dots are fine. I think the secondary needs to be something significant. Either the hand shot or the crippling shot, which is what I think witch hunters are usually trying to do anyway. They kind of go melee resistance with Deny the Heretic and some of their skills. So it's a warband I think takes a lot of hand shots. And I think they take kind of crippling shots with that Deny the Heretic. Like kind of taking a few OP away is annoying. I don't think that it needs to be an SP thing. I don't think it needs to be. You could, if you put like knee shot in there, it'd be amazing. I think everyone would take it on witch hunters every time. So maybe it's too strong. But if it was like a shittier knee shot, right? I mean, nerve shot kind of doesn't work already anyway. I don't think vital shot. So I think, and they're literally like arms, literally a hand shot, trial by pain. It like mentally works for people. I realize you guys can't see this on the stream. I was like mousing over, but it just shows me mouse. I've noticed that it doesn't show the drop down bars. So, so we've talked about Burn the Witch on Discord. I suggested adding fire, but I also suggested something else that I liked, and I can't remember what it was. I'd have to look it up on Discord, and we can carry the conversation. Yes, sorry. There's hand shot. Literally hands getting shot. Yeah, we can look it up later. I mean, I like the fire too. I do like the fire. I just worry about too many things on a unit. Like, I think I said with fire, you need to then introduce a way to remove it. And then I said like cauterize, ironically, like because cauterizing is burning something to, like, stop an like you cauterize a wound, you burn the wound shut. We literally do that today in surgery. They use a scalpel to cut in you, and then they use this hot fucking laser cutter that seals you up as they cut. So, like, could you cauterize off burns? I don't know. I mean, both are burning. Mentally, maybe you think that. But I think if you put that, like, a baby version of the Executioner's, I'm on the Executioner, Fire Purge, on to Burn the Witch, you then need to have to put a way to remove it. So, and I wish I can't really remember at all what the other version was. But the reason I was suggesting it needs to do something else, and again the reason why it's bad, is when you play the AI again, you want them to cast, and there's only X amount of casters on a battlefield. There's 0 casting henchmen. There is only the Pink Horror as a demon, which everyone here wants it to cast more. Like, everyone's like, I like it when it's a Pink Horror because they do stupid casting, and you can just go, like, having it hit you for 80 damage every round would be worse. So you're not actually even using it on that. You're like, yes, Curse of Chaos, go, buddy, go. Oh, look, you did 30 damage to my units instead of 80. So no one's using it on the Pink Horror. No one's using it on Henchmen. So you're just kind of left with some casting units, right? And there's not that many per warband. In PvP, people usually have like 2 maybe. Depends who you're facing or whatever. So its use window, and I've talked about this a lot in rankings, it has a very narrow use window. And then the mastery is not even better. It's just struggles. So I wanted something. Oh, I think it was to reduce fear, terror, and all alone. It was a dismay. That's what it was. Because the warrior priest is giving everybody armor of righteousness, and this warband is like the order warband that does fear and terror. Like the sisters literally have none without a wolf priest or a warrior priest. The mercs just have an ogre. So this is the destruction version of fear and terror. So I talked about a skill that I think is totally underutilized, and this is part of it. And I would love to see more of it used in the future. Well, I've probably not seen it because it's a passive. Was demoralize. You reduce the leaderships. And I wanted Burn the Witch to kind of be like a demoralize for witch hunters. I wanted it to drop fear, terror all alone, or even leader, like have that be cooked into it. So it's like a demoralize plus. I think that's what I would like to see happen with Burn the Witch. So you could take Dismay runes and Burn the Witch, and you start to fuck with the mentals. You're the witch hunters. You're like, should be scary to casters and to other you're doing armor of righteousness and fury and terror, and you're fucking inquisitors in my mind, right? I'm not as up to date on the lore of this universe, but it strikes me that these are the fucking like Spanish inquisitors of the medieval times. You know, here comes the Spanish Inquisition. So fear, terror, you know, all alone, dismay, demoralize, fucking with people's like psyche. That's what Burn the Witch, and like clearly good against casters. So that's all wrapped into one skill. That's what I'd like to see Burn the Witch grow into. Fanatical Zeal. Man, Witch Hunters are not doing great right now. Um, increases melee hit chance by 10%. And you cannot save your unit's life, is how we can translate that. Prevents you from moving your units out of combat when at low health. I'm sorry, prevents flee and disengage. That's what it says. And then melee hit chance boost increases 10%. So this is combat focus. You could say it's insult, but it truly is combat focus because this is only for itself. 10, 5, 15, 10, 2 SP, 1 OP. And then we're going to tack on this really fucking horrible thing about not being able to disengage. Like, a key component of playing the AI is cycling out units when they're low health. All right, you done your job. You ate that ambush from the demon. You're nearly dead. Go disengage and pick up some stone for me now. That's your job. We do this all the time. That's what everyone does. PvP, anything. Like, you don't want your units to die, especially in PvE. So you want to move them when you have to be able to move them. Preventing that is horrible. There's literally an injury to prevent. It's like megalomania or what. Like, you can no longer disengage. It's a active punishment. So, who is this useful on? The Templar and the Executioner. They can't disengage. So, already this is a skill for only 2 units. Well, I don't give a fuck if my unit dies. Oh, okay. I don't know why you'd not care about that. In other words, I'm only doing PvP. And even then, like, you're going to care. You want to keep your morale, right? It's just, like, actively shitty. It's so bad. Now, the only caveat is, let's say you are this wolf priest. I keep going on about him. Like, he works well in Witch Hunters. He has the spell that also prevents this, which is like Ulrich's Blessing, I think. It prevents disengaging. And it increases hit chance. So it's kind of that spell, but as a skill. So I've already doubled down on not giving a shit about this unit ever leaving, and I just really want to hit things. Okay, Fanatical Zeal, Ulrich's Blessing. You're hitting things. I don't love it. I'd much rather, like, maybe have Insult or anything and have the ability to move around. So is it a buffed combat focus? If you remember combat focus, it was living here. So now if we make it like slightly better combat focus, but now I can't, now I have megalomania, I don't think it's moving far. I think the 5% more is easily like struck down by can't flee and disengage. But we have to be fair. Like a Templar would maybe want this, but it would probably also just want Insult instead. I'd probably just take Insult because it's helping everybody else. Would you want to double down on this? Would you want to take combat focus and finesse? Like, I don't think so. I'd rather just throw the pyre. Like, Witch Hunters can be the ultimate melee resistance bypass team in a lot of ways because of all this stuff, right? But there's a point of overkill. Like, you also need to bypass armor or do things, you know, I don't know. There's like a point of like poor feedback. So he thinks it should be 1520 now. I don't remember seeing that change. I think that would help. It'd make it very unique, but again, it is like, okay, Templar Executioner. Like, I think I had Insult up here. I still think it's worse than Insult. Like Insult, everyone else gets to benefit from it. Like, that's good. Let me look at the wording again, because wording's important. Increases melee hit chance is very different from decreases enemy melee resistance, right? Like, maces increase melee hit chance. Like, there's very few things that, like, I think truly increase melee hit chance. Most other things reduce the enemy's melee resistance. My dog is howling. Hey, what's up? Why are you guys both pink? It's throwing me off. You guys even your names look really quick on quick glance. Yeah. I'm glad you were mad about my flawless positioning. All right, fanatical zeal. So let's just finally rank them. 10%'s decent, but this is basically going to be a henchman skill. You can maybe toss it on top of like a Templar takes mastery insult and then just basic zeal. That's a good combination. So I don't want to be too harsh on it. I think an executioner overdoing melee hit chance can be bad. Like you kind of want to focus on like truly just fucking things up versus just trying to hit things. Like I need to hit things. Oh, I have this pyre. Let me throw that on the ground. So I think it's less useful for him. So I think we're kind of in the like bad territory because the Templar can use it. Like it'd be down here lower for the henchman. Like the Zealot actively fucking horrible. The Flagellant actively fucking horrible. Like the thing that makes a Flagellant is it, besides this massive armor it fucking has now, is it can be psych immune but then get away. Like that's very special. That's not a lot of units do that. Like I am immune to your charging fucking demon from hell. Okay, I absorb that and I'm just gonna walk away. And you can, you know what I mean? Like that's very special. So removing that from a flagellant is actively horrible. So I just don't understand it. It's just bad. Doesn't I get why it has it? You're zealot. You're not leaving anymore. I get the flavor. It's just so bad. It's just so bad. So I don't love it in any way. It's hard to get behind. Like Ulrich's blessing plus this. Okay, you got a flagellant that can really finally hit things, but I don't know. I think positioning is just so much more important in the game. Mastery not being easy to master is a problem for just 5% more. Am I taking 4 skill points? 4 for 5% more hit chance. Like, ugh. Like, like that's a big tax. That's a huge fucking tax. Well, it lasts one more turn. Like, it's not a big deal in the scheme of things, like reapplying that. Like, and then again, let's pretend I'm a psychopath and I don't mind if my zealot stands in, my lad's got talent zealot just stands in there. Like, is it worth, like, this should like, it's really hard to spend 6 skill points on that for just 5% more, really. The reapplication's not that big a deal. This isn't like a huge cost. So again, it's not as good as Insult. I think they're just both bad. That this one comes down now because of that cost of not easy to master. Is it really giving you that much more? I don't think my Executioner's ever taking it. Maybe the Templar is. I think I'd way rather take Insult for 1 more SP. So well, to be fair, it doesn't say anything about this going to 3 turn, but this implies this is what it does, and here it is. This implies the flee and disengage is 3 turns. It doesn't say it doesn't. You're saying it maybe it doesn't. You would need to specify. If you want to make it better, say flee and disengage goes to 1 turn. Okay, like then okay, okay. He has some zeal, fanatical zeal, but he's able to like better breathe and focus. You know, he can control the zeal for when he needs it for that moment. Like you could see, you know, I can picture that. And we're on to something. All right, so their actives are trash. Holy shit, they're terrible. We got one into good. Thank God they have passives. Ardent cleansing. After gathering a windstone, become a sister and get repentance. I'm sorry. It says increase movement by 2 meters for 3 turns. Increase by 3. Easy to what? Oh, this thing is checking boxes, guys. Easy to master. Only slightly better, but easy to master. Okay. Okay. 3 turns at basic? What? We're like onto something here. Repentance, I think, is like sprint across the map. Kind of want to look now, actually. Because that's like what we're comparing to, in my opinion. 4, yeah. Like that is the golden standard. So it's half of that. So you become a half sister. She starts with it. It's pretty fucking awesome. You're picking up a stone though, which is certainly going to fuck you up, as they always do. The witch hunters at least have some tools to take care of it. I think like most every unit is taking this, especially henchmen. Like, holy shit, that's really good. Like henchmen are picking up stone, and then you can like shuffle it around the map better. You know, you can go get into combat and you're not taking fanatical zeal, so you can actually disengage once, you know, you've done your job for a little bit. So, like, it's really fucking good to be able to get movement for units picking up things, which is what you're doing 97% of the time in PvE. You're running around grabbing things in stone, especially, so you can make your shipments and stuff. In PvP, we've made it a thing because that's the whole point of this game is go pick up some stone. 2 meters for 3 turns. Like I was talking about knowledge of ambush or something. And I was like, wow, we're like sleeping on. So say you give your like your flagellant, you're walking along, you've given him ardent cleansing. I'm from the south. Ardent cleansing, and you give him knowledge. I think ambush. So you get this guy, you walk out, you grab the stone, you let that guy ambush you. Then you take the escape. I think it's called escape amulet. You disengage. You gain like 2 more. You're just fucking running around the map. It's amazing. Like this is something I should be taking in PvE. I'm like upset I'm not taking that. I haven't played the Witch Hunters in a while, but like this is amazing combinations. And I think it's well deserved. It's better than great. And I think henchmen 100%. That's what like keeps it down here. Is I don't think you're taking it on every hero. Like literally the executioner can't use it. Okay, that's already blocked it in a way. I think you're running out of passive slots on heroes. Like your archers, it can be risky, right? But say you want an archer that moves around, applying your shitty trial by pains, you're going to pick up a stone probably. It's like in and out is the smuggler version. She gains movement by picking up a stone and initiative. This is like the witch huntery one. Like, and that's a good skill. I'm never disappointed like in my archer moving around the map more. Like, don't get +1 to range attacks. That's fucking horrible. That's a different problem. But I think you're using that a lot. So heroes we just said aren't taking this as much. It's going to be even harder to take the mastery version. It is easy to master, but like you can take a knight, a Templar, instead of worrying about knowledge of Mordheim. I still think a knight, honestly, I think a knight takes armor proficient every single fucking time. We talked about armor proficient versus knowledge of Mordheim. To be fair, I don't even think he gets 15. So he's always taking armor proficient. You could see a scenario where you only take basic and then maybe this as mastery, and it's the same cost as armor proficient mastery, right? But then you have to kind of eat that debuff, but then you got to find a stone, but then you get more, right? You start to get in all these caveats, and I think it gets very complicated. In PvE, I think it's pretty damn good. It's only 4. It's only going to be 2 more. But, you know, it gets like wordstones, finding them, getting the debuff, it's rough. You get 1 more meter's movement. So say you find a fragment. You get a fragment. You're a, a warrior priest. You've decided to. I can eat a slot. I have a slot, even though I usually want to use all my passives. I could use one on this. Easy to master. Get my Jesus, get my fragment. Put it in a chest and like reapply this buff to myself, and to keep getting good movement. I think that's a good thing, right? But I really don't see it as much. I think it's just good, honestly. I do think it struggles. It struggles. The easy to master, and this is what I talk about a lot. Like, it's a big important thing, but I think this is like good enough in 90% of the case. Like, it's a passive. It really struggles finding a place with the passive, especially about the next ones we're about to talk about, I think. But 3 meters is good. Like, that's really good movement. So it's very viable. It's something you can definitely use in PvE, 100%. Sigil, this has changed. It's finally good. It's starting to come back to why Burn the Witch is shit too, though. Like, magic thing. Magic thing. Oh, how about another magic thing? Like, it's too much. And the AI barely fucking knows how to use it. And there's no AI henchmen use like no henchmen use magic. Like, what are we doing here? This has been fixed to finally be really pretty good, I think. It used to be you would take damage, it would buff your melee damage. And you had horrible caustic strategies of the players killing themselves with magic. Like, a wolf priest would cast Ice Storm to purposely try to buff the units. Like, what? That's like me with the blunderbuss. Like, all right, Zealots, just line up there. I'm going to shoot you in the fucking back with a white blunderbuss. To buff your damage. I mean, it's an unhealthy tactic. Like, it's not great tactics. So this feels like something you could still do that with this. Don't get me wrong. This is perfectly, you could still like ice storm your units, but this is much more like how it feels like it should be. I take, after failing a magic resistance test, increase melee damage and the magic resistance now, and it stacks. So you're going to do magic on me. It used to be this scary situation where you, and I think it was Quist. He actually used this against me in a tournament on his Templars, and he was trying to buff them. And I had a Necromancer. Of course, it was a fucking Necromancer. And I came around the corner. I saw the Templar, and I just nuked him to the fucking ground. Like, it's like, I was buffing him, and I'm like, boy, I really better kill this guy. But I like just was like, okay, here's more, and he died, and he never got to utilize it. This fixes that problem. Now, if you keep doing the magic, he would have started passing the tests, like no longer being struck by magic, and now he's like armored up and good to go. It was like, you're fucked, you know? So this is the perfect design here. You're going to take magic damage, but eventually you're not, and now you're powered up. There's a lot of this in the game. Like, and this warband has it. The Zealot has it with his Vengeance. You'll see this with other things we've talked about, like Anticipation and Wardstone Horns combination. Like, if you're going to poke some things, there's a few others I can't, but if you poke, you're going to be punished. You need to, like, finish the job, and this is one of them. If you're going to, like, poke, so unfortunately, if your sisters, whose comments are trash, and you're just poking, your little poke in the bear, they're going to build up this melee or magic resistance and then a whole bunch of damage, and then just pour it out on your ass. And so this is a great change. I think the numbers are okay. This is where it starts to matter again. The 3 turns versus 2. This is less, but like keeping the magic and the damage up longer is a bigger deal. Like I talked about this just being bad, because it is like 1 turn for 5% more. What? But like 20% more, lasting even longer. Like, this is where it starts to become a bigger difference between the two, and then it's probably is why it needs to be 6 skill points to master it, right? So I could honestly see this even being maybe like 25%, but I mean, he does a lot of 15 and 20, so maybe it's okay. Because I kind of think the basics good enough for all intents purposes, but you could see wanting it to last even longer is a good thing. But again, passives, it's so hard with passives. It's always like like is the passive like basic good enough? And I'm struggling for them. I think this is now great to elite. But okay, why is it not up there? And again, paranoia is like, why do you have all these? There's too many tiers. Like maybe you could say that here with bad. Maybe some could just be not good. I don't know. It's a point. Maybe there's a point. Um, he's felt averagely bad to me. I don't know, but like I'm not taking this on every build. This I was like every henchman's kind of taking Righteous Fury basic. It's just so good not to. It's cheap as fuck and it's very good at what it does. So it got up there. Why isn't it elite, which is like a step below? Well, the AI sucks with magic. You're not going to run into magic all the time, right? So you're like hard capped by like what the AI does. Because this is a list that's comprehensive for PvP and PvE. PvP, like, wow, yeah, everyone's fucking taking it. But we're not always doing PvP, so it's not up there. Like, so that's kind of what this middling shit's for. Like, this is really good in PvP. It's kind of shit in PvE because AI doesn't know what it's doing. I honestly like down here, like it's gonna be really hard to take the damage. But PvP is such a big part of what we're at, and it's such a fun part of the game that I feel that needs to be here. I like moving. I don't do what Mork does. I like kind of like having the masteries versus the basics. This wasn't isn't almost to that one. It's just like nice to see. I like having stuff right next to each other too, though. Um, so yeah, it's cool to see where the basics are versus the masteries. So it will never be up there. This one, I think it's since I was talking about, is it as good as like I think it's just there. Like this is great for the henchmen. This is probably great for the heroes. Henchmen can't take it. In PvP, I think they're just equal. Like a henchman should be taking this, hero should be taking that. You could maybe drop it a tier lower because of like, could the hero just take that? And you could start to talk about that argument. And I think that's fair. I haven't. It's too new. It hasn't been experimented with enough yet. Maybe in this Battle Hub Behemoths, I can take some mastery just to see how it looks. I don't know. It's weird because once the players know you have that, it's almost like, oh, I can't attack with magic. But that's the point, right? You better not attack my Templar or, Executioner. Like an Executioner with this. Pretty quickly, you're gonna be like, okay, he's immune to magic. I can't fucking touch that guy. He's got that mastery, Sigil of Sigmar. I can't fuck with that guy. And that's its own kind of power. And if you do, okay, you want to attack with magic? Okay. Right? So to only have to worry about melee and maybe some ranged, that's a power in itself. And then the Witchfinder's Ward, I think this one got hurt by the Chains of Sigil of Sigmar. It really did. Because these numbers start to get like weird. Like I take 2 lightnings, which is the most extreme case. I'm now at the mastery. Right? But then I haven't gained any of the melee damage. I think Witchfinder's Ward has been just hurt. So I think this needs maybe some help now. I think there's a few ways to do it. You could clearly just up these numbers. I don't like that. You can easy to master. I don't know if I like that. Because you also have, well, there's the poison. Okay, we're talking about tertiary rolls, right? How many times are you going to run into poison? So what I think, just looking at it, I think what you can put in here, based off of the Warrior Priest, based off of Ardent Cleansing, is increased poison and Wordstone and magic resistance. I think if you put Wordstone in there, you're starting to catch my attention again. So, yeah, and do we remember where I ranked resist poison? Paranoia says it's half resist magic and half resist poison. I believe resist poison mastery was right here. And basic maybe here. So you're not impressing me. Like my Wordstone resistance was living in this half too. If you start to put smash enough, like I believe resist magic was not because of frenzy. You can smush a lot of things together and maybe eventually it drags it up. But I think Sigil of Sigmar has easily supplanted this. So it kind of needs to twist more towards poison and wordstone resistance with that little. And I kind of don't want to take magic resistance. I don't want magic. So, like, I think putting the wordstone with the ardent cleansing and then the priest, which we can look at because we're almost done here anyway. Let's start to do the math. And if you pray out a cart, you could really see where you can get ardent cleansing to its most. Immaculate Flesh removes all active warp effects. So even if you do take them, you can throw this on you and remove them. But the big thing is you probably just want to start resisting them. So 20%. A lot of people never master this because there's not a lot. Again, it comes back to what is it affecting? Things I don't really care about often. But you can start to see a theme. If you put this with like the Witchfinder's Ward, Immaculate Flesh, you know, Skaven are going to be in trouble facing them. So if you're facing a Skaven team, you're taking Immaculate Flesh Mastery, you're taking the Witchfinder's Ward Mastery. You wouldn't know. Would someone specifically take something just for Skaven? I mean, you're talking about narrow use windows again. But if you start doing that right, I think you can get to like decent wordstone resistances and poison resistances without having to worry about it. So yeah, I know mastery has that slight benefit, but that's just it. Like if one priest has it, maybe, you know, because it is a starting spell, maybe you could toss it on one of them. The biggest problem is this. Well, you can't see them again. All of these fucking things are really good. Like this is the worst of the all these fucking really. This one's not great either. But like, there's a lot of things it has to compete with. It really fucking struggles. So I think Witchfinder's Ward lost to power creep. And I talked about when you weren't here. I was talking about how some skills have lost to power creep. I think this is one of them, and this needs to Wordstone resistant tossed in. Now it is like a better, like one of these. It's already as good as that if you ignore the like. So I think it's like it just struggles now. So okay, probably not good, honestly. I wish I knew where I put resist magic basic. I can't really remember. Because it's a slightly better version than that, right? And you could stack that. The always thing is you could stack that with resist magic. So maybe it's okay. But I think you would just take this. I think you would just take this. And I've talked about how you have to look at these warbands in context with each other. This is warband specific stuff. So I that's again, maybe I had resist magic up here or whatever, and I'm being cruel, but you have to, and I was talking about that with I think the sisters, some of the sister skills, because you have to consider them within the warband itself, competing with other skills within the warband itself, and this is just failing to that now, in my opinion. And I think this just really fails because of the other skills. Let's see, it's not easy to master, right? This was easy to master. This one, after 2, you supplanted it. You know, again, you could talk about the poison, but I think this just needs more. It's just not good enough now. I think that feels cruel. It's probably just not good. I just think it's losing, like, straight up to this now. I think if you put the words down, it becomes a lot more PvE, where those struggled, you know, so maybe you could see where it's useful. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. But just off, you know, it's a new day. Maybe I'm having different gut instincts. But, like, and then again, you have to compare, like, I can take Witchfinder's Ward and basic resist magic. I don't know. And it's competing with other skills within its own little section. So there's the final tree. Yeah, I'll have to look back at it too. I feel bad. I don't think I loved it because of Frenzy I was talking about and stuff like that. I think Resist Magic Mastery I had below down here. I think basic I had a little higher because it was only 2 skill points and you could sneak it into a build. So yeah, Righteous Fury I think needs basic is like standard on henchmen right away. You can sneak it into like heroes no problem too. So that was godly because especially how it fucks up the AI and other players. Like just losing one OP is really good. Um, this tactician I went on and on about. Like I was looking at a lot of really cool things. I like to put those together. I was saying. So tactician, I thought the basic was just as good as the mastery. And then using both together can be extremely powerful to have like zero cost entrenched and shit. No, I'll do destruction next, but I definitely need a little break. Get some calories. These took forever. I mean, I knew it would. 2.5 fucking hours. Sniper shot mastery. I was talking about how I like vital shot more, but it's perfectly viable. It was more like personal choice. I think this is just fine. And then we just talked about that. And then the 20% magic resistance. I think just probably came down because of PvE. The AI doesn't know what it's doing, but it should be pretty fucking standard in PvP. So, all right, I'll be back. I don't know, 10, 20, something like that. I need to walk around, pee, grab a bite.